Just want to have this recorded. Cool. All right, so intro to the command line. I'll post these slides after for reference because this link has a bunch of basically what I'm going to be talking about. So some terminology to get started. The terminal, the shell, the command line, they're all used roughly interchangeably. They might refer to slightly different things. To be honest, I don't know the specific definitions myself, but they're all going to be used pretty interchangeably. A file system, which is kind of the key of what we're going to be talking about, is the structure and organization of all the files in your computer. So basically, when you look at File Explorer or Finder, that's your file system. Yeah. So it looks kind of like this. Like I said, Finder, File Explorer. You can, just like you can navigate it from any of these graphical tools, you can also navigate it and edit files from the terminal. So just another word, folder is the same thing as directory when talking about navigating the file system from terminal, or when talking about folders in computer science. For some reason, we call them directories instead of folders. I'll probably use that word, but that's what I'm talking about. So you can think of the file system as a tree structure, kind of like this picture looks like. There are a few special directories. So the root directory, denoted by the slash, is the tippy topmost directory, and you probably won't spend a lot of time here at all. In these other folders, this is where your computer stores information it needs to know about itself. Then you have your home directory, which is noted by the little tilde. This is your home directory. So I'm on a Mac and it's my username, so Laura McGann, which I'll show you in a sec. It's a little different on Windows, I believe. Probably the C colon or D colon. I think it's C. It's a little different on Windows, and I'm not completely sure, but the rest of it should be the same. The current directory is noted by a dot, so a single period, and the parent directory, so the directory above, is a dot dot, which will be useful when we start using commands. So this is a list of a bunch of basic commands that I'm going to go through, but I'm going to escape for the time being and move this. So here we have a terminal window. It is running bash. It is a bash shell, which is a specific type of shell programming language, but it's probably going to be the same across most terminal windows. This is the graphical representation of my file system. So here's my home directory, Laura McGann. That's where I start out in a terminal. It's also shown by the tilde. So ls is the first useful command. It stands for list. And so when you type it, it'll list all of the things in the current directory. So the current directory, or the current working directory, is wherever you are located in the terminal window. So right now I'm in the home directory. And so as you can see, everything it's listed are all the things that I've listed here. The second most useful command is cd. So this stands for change directory, which basically allows you to move into any other directory. So I'm going to move into documents, for example. And now the location where I'm currently at, so my current working directory, is now home/documents. And that's the equivalent of moving into, okay, I have it somewhere else. It's not actually listed here, but moving into documents. And so now if I ls the contents of this directory, I get all the things that you see in here. So when I did cd originally, I just typed documents and I was in the home directory. So I could do that because documents was inside my current directory. But if I wanted to try and move, so that's called a relative path. So it's relative to your current working directory. An absolute path is specified starting from the home directory. So if I'm in documents and I want to get to downloads, which is back here on the same level as documents, I can't do cd downloads because it's not in my current directory. So there are a few different ways I can do this. I can use the ... so that special directory name. And so that'll say, okay, go back up a level and then look for downloads. And you can use tab complete to finish things for you. So cd ... slash downloads. Now I'm in the downloads directory. So the ... went up one and then came back down. If you're thinking about that tree diagram that I showed earlier, that's what it's doing essentially. So that's still a relative path because the ... is the parent of where you are right now. If I wanted to do an absolute path, that starts from the home directory. So you say, okay, just start from the beginning because your computer knows where that is. And then say I wanted to go back to documents. I could go back to documents and do that. So that's called an absolute path. And if it's too much work to keep going back and back and back and then go down again, you can just start over. And then if you ever want to just get to your home directory, you can use any of these special characters that you want to. So now I'm back in the home directory where I started. So one other thing for making directories, it's a special command called make dir. So you just type it and then give it a name, say test directory. So now you can see up here, I updated, I created a folder. It's empty because there's nothing in it. And if I list it, it is right here. So we just made one. Now that we made it, we can go into it. Let's see, test directory, and it's empty. So now we're going to talk about files. Okay, yeah. So files, you can edit them from the command line, just like you would from a text editor. So one way to create a file from the command line is to use the touch command. So touch just creates a file. If it's already created, it'll update the last edited timestamp, but it's just a handy way to create files. And let's put something in it. So I'm going to use Vim, which is kind of an in-shell text editor. It's a little complicated to get started with. I'll link a cheat sheet later so you can learn it if you would like. So I'm just gonna put some text in here right now. It says, hello world. And now we have the file test.txt. You can see it in here. It will still show up. Now you have the file. If you had wanted to create a file some other way, like you could just create a new folder, new file. If you can open it in your favorite text editor and you can edit it here. And then you can save it and it'll get saved back. And then the changes will still be here. So to see the contents of any file that you have, you can use the cat command, which I think stands for concatenation. I don't know why it refers to basically spilling whatever's in a file. But cat test.txt will show the contents of a text file. So as you can see, updating it from using whatever text editor you want works just as well as updating it here. So if you don't want to mess with Vim, don't, basically. You can also, I think Nano is another editor that some intro CS classes might have you use, but if you don't want to deal with it, just use your favorite text editor and place it in the file system here so you can access it here. Let's see what else I had wanted to talk about. Right, okay. So now that we have a file, we can do some stuff with it. So we can copy files using the cp command. So say I wanted to copy my test file into test2.txt. So this will create a new file, test2.txt, if it does not exist already. So now we have two files. If we cat test2, oops, it should be the same, right? If we said, oops, that was an accident, we can remove it using the remove command, rm. So we can remove test2, and now it's gone. If we were done with this whole test directory, or say we wanted to move files out of it, we can move files. So I'm going to move test. So you move whatever file you want, and then you specify where you want to put it. So I'm going to say put it in the parent directory. And now you can see the change up here. It moved out of the folder and is on the same level as everything else. So this folder is empty. The previous folder now has our test file. So say now we're done with this directory, we want to move back up and we want to delete the directory. If you try deleting a directory with the same command, it'll give you an error saying it's a directory, you can't do this. So you can either use remove directory, kind of like the make directory, or you can use rm-r, which stands for recursive. So it'll basically delete everything in a directory. And then you can remove it, and now it's gone. One last thing I was going to talk about is finding, so say finding things inside files. So say you knew you were looking for the keyword hello world, but you didn't know what file it was in. You can use the command called grep, which I don't actually know what it stands for, but you do grep, you specify the keyword. So let's say, actually I don't need that. Hello. And then you specify what files you want it to look in. So I'm going to say look in the current directory. Okay, sorry, current files. So the asterisk is called a wildcard. It basically just means everything. So the terminal will pattern match basically to what you specify. It's kind of like a fill in the blanks. So everything in the current directory is what this means. So it'll look for hello. It's giving me a bunch of errors because other things are directories, but here we have our hello world being found in my test.txt file. That is pretty much everything. Are there any questions? Sorry, that was kind of a lot of information with probably a lot of details, but hopefully helpful. I'll share the slides and the recording so you can always go back and look at it. But